As the days blurred into a grueling routine of dawn reveilles, endless drills, and sweat-soaked exhaustion, Lieutenant Sarah Chen, still masquerading as the unassuming recruit Chen, dug deeper into the toxic underbelly of the Academy's culture, her small hidden recorder capturing whispered conversations and her encrypted notes app filling with timestamps of every infraction she witnessed. By the end of the first week, patterns emerged clearer than the morning formations. Peterson and his clique, now dubbed the Alpha Pack by the quieter recruits, had escalated from verbal jabs to outright sabotage, hiding boots, tampering with rifles during cleaning inspections, and spreading rumors that painted targets like Marcus, Jennifer, and Rebecca as weak links who didn't belong, all while Staff Sergeant Williams turned a deliberate blind eye, even chuckling at their antics during smoke breaks, his favoritism extending to letting Peterson's group skip extra duties or receive lighter punishments. For clear violations, Sarah intervened subtly where she could, accidentally discovering hidden gear before inspections or offering quiet tips on technique during PT that helped the targeted recruits avoid failure, earning their tentative trust without raising suspicion. As Marcus confided one night in the dim barracks light, "You're the only one who doesn't treat us like we're already washed out," his voice cracking with gratitude that made Sarah's resolve harden. Meanwhile, she noted how Drill Sergeant Rodriguez maintained professional distance, barking orders equally at everyone but never stepping in to curb the staff's biases, perhaps bound by the chain of command or unaware of the full extent. Sarah planned to clarify that in her report. Tension peaked during the second week's confidence course, a mud-slicked gauntlet of walls, ropes, and cargo nets under pouring rain, where Williams misplaced safety harnesses for the female recruits, forcing Rebecca to climb unaided and nearly fall, only for Sarah to steady her from below without breaking cover, drawing Peterson's glare as he muttered, "Playing hero now, Chen, careful, or you'll be next." That evening, overhearing Peterson bragging about his uncle being a major influencer in the Academy's selection board, explaining his repeated second chances despite prior failures, Sarah cross-referenced it mentally with overheard staff chatter, piecing together a network of nepotism and old boy favoritism that poisoned the training pipeline. The breaking point came during a live-fire exercise, when Peterson accidentally bumped Marcus's rifle mid-range, causing a dangerous misfire that could have injured the line, yet Williams blamed Marcus alone, threatening washout if he couldn't handle basic safety. That night, as muffled sobs echoed again from targeted bunks and Sarah lay awake weighing intervention against mission integrity, she decided the evidence was damning enough. Dozens of recorded incidents, witness accounts from half the platoon, proof of systemic discrimination that went beyond hazing into deliberate attrition of diverse recruits, slipping out during a feigned bathroom break. She transmitted her encrypted dossier to General Morrison via a secure drop, including recommendations for immediate staff reassignments and cultural overhaul training. The next morning's reveille brought chaos: armored vehicles at the gates, investigators swarming the barracks, and General Morrison himself striding into the courtyard as Rodriguez called the platoon to attention. Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Chen, front and center, Morrison's voice boomed, silencing the gasps as Sarah stepped forward in perfect uniform posture, her cover officially blown, Peterson's face drained of color as Williams stammered excuses. Both led away in cuffs for questioning alongside other implicated staff. Turning to the stunned recruits, Sarah, now openly in her true rank, addressed them firmly yet compassionately. "What you've endured isn't strength, it's weakness masquerading as toughness. Real leadership builds up, never tears down. This academy will change, starting today, because of your resilience." And my observations, in the weeks that followed, as the investigation uprooted the rot and new protocols ensured fair treatment, Marcus graduated top of his remedial class, Rebecca earned marksman honors, and even Peterson, facing disciplinary review, showed flickers of reflection in mandatory counseling. Sarah returned to her division decorated anew, not for valor in battle, but for courage in exposing the enemy within. Proving that the most powerful weapon against toxicity isn't rank or force, but unflinching truth and the quiet determination to protect those who serve alongside you. The breaking point came during a night training exercise, a grueling, rain-soaked navigation march through dense woods under strict noise and light discipline, designed to test teamwork, endurance, and decision-making in low-visibility conditions. Flashlights were forbidden except for red lens emergencies, and the platoon moved in two staggered files led by rotating recruit leaders, with Williams and two assistant instructors shadowing from the rear, barking corrections over the downpour. Sarah had noted earlier in the day how Williams had deliberately assigned the most exhausted recruits, including Jennifer, freshly cleared from medical but still pale, to the front rotations, while placing Peterson and his former allies in easier rear positions, a subtle punishment for the shifting loyalties she had observed. As midnight approached and thunder rumbled overhead, the platoon reached a swollen creek crossing marked on their maps as shallow but now running fast and waist-deep from the storm. The assigned leader, a quiet recruit named David who had never been given a fair chance before, hesitated at the bank, correctly assessing the danger and suggesting they move upstream to find a safer ford. Williams, materializing from the darkness like a predator, overrode him immediately, his voice cutting through the rain. "Cross here, now. This is the military, not a debate club. Real soldiers adapt or drown in excuses." David glanced desperately at the rushing water, then at the line of shivering recruits behind him, but under the sergeant's glare he stepped in first, the current immediately knocking him off balance. Within seconds he was swept downstream, his muffled cry swallowed by the storm as the platoon froze in panic. Chaos erupted. Some recruits lunged forward instinctively to help, others backed away, and Williams shouted conflicting orders that only worsened the confusion. Sarah, positioned near the middle of the line, acted without hesitation but still within the bounds of her cover. She grabbed a nearby poncho liner from a recruit's pack, knotted it quickly into a makeshift tether with help from Marcus and Rebecca, and anchored one end around a sturdy tree while Peterson without a word waded in dangerously close to the edge to haul David back as the line caught him midstream. Together, with Peterson's raw strength and Sarah's calm direction, they pulled David to safety, the young man coughing and shaking but alive. The exercise ground to a halt as red lens flashlights finally came on and the assistant instructors radioed for medical check and extraction. Williams stood silent at first, rain streaming down his enraged face, then exploded in a tirade blaming David for poor leadership and the entire platoon for breaking discipline, threatening mass punishments and failure reports. But something extraordinary happened in that moment. Under the pouring sky, Peterson stepped forward, water dripping from his fatigues, and spoke with a steadiness Sarah had never heard from him before. "With respect, Sergeant, the only failure here was ignoring a legitimate safety concern. We almost lost a recruit tonight because of it." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the soaked ranks. Marcus, Rebecca, Jennifer, even some of Peterson's former followers nodding openly. For the first time, the wall of fear cracked wide open. Williams' authority visibly crumbled as he realized the platoon was no longer passively accepting his version of events. He stormed off to confer with the other instructors, leaving the recruits to huddle under ponchos waiting for transport back to barracks. In the cold, exhausted silence that followed, recruits began talking openly, comparing notes, sharing stories of favoritism and sabotage, voicing the frustrations they had bottled up for weeks. Marcus pulled out his soaked notebook, remarkably intact in a plastic bag, and others began adding their own accounts right there in the mud. Sarah listened, her heart pounding not from the cold but from the realization that the culture was shifting faster than even her intervention might have achieved. The near tragedy had done what her careful documentation alone could not. It united them. Back at the barracks in the early hours, hot showers and dry uniforms did little to ease the tension, but a new energy filled the space. Williams avoided eye contact during debrief, muttering about lessons learned while the assistant instructors exchanged uneasy glances. Word of the incident traveled fast. By morning, Drill Sergeant Rodriguez summoned the entire platoon to the courtyard, his expression thunderous yet controlled, announcing that the night's events were under formal review and that training would proceed under heightened oversight. Sarah knew this meant her encrypted reports had finally reached the right ears, perhaps accelerated by the visiting officer's earlier suspicions or Rodriguez's own growing concerns. Over the final weeks of basic training, the transformation became undeniable. Williams was quietly reassigned to administrative duties pending investigation. New instructors rotated in with strict guidelines on fairness and safety, and the recruits now openly supporting one another pushed THR.